Should Arizona forward Ira Lee, cited for super extreme DUI, receive a get-out-of-jail-free card? Should TUSD stop using the term rodeo days? And why Governor Ducey is using ignorance as a defense for speaking to a group plagued by racism. These stories and more next on the 520. Welcome to the 520. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Arty IV. Thanks for joining us.
And as Arty's world turns, once again, you are wearing a new
Pennsylvania State, yeah. Good wrestling,
State.
Good football, Quan Barkley.
Let me just, here's a little rapid fire trivia for you. Do you know your team, the USC Trojans, and the record versus Penn State is all time?
Yeah. I know that they won in the Rose Bowl.
I know that USC holds a 6-4 all-time record against Penn State. And yet you're going to wear that sweater? Are you kidding me?
If you guys want to play sports
that represents
Jeopardy,
Jerry Sandusky, and I'm not saying you condone this, man, but lordy.
Paterno was nice.
This guy has, I mean, his records, spending over 60 years in prison for raping kids.
I like the clothes, man. I like the clothes. I like the clothes.
Take it off. All right, on to some other serious topics. Could Arizona basketball player Ira Lee receive a get-out-of-jail-free card despite being arrested for super extreme DUI? Well, after getting pulled over, records show the sophomore forward had a blood alcohol level of at least 0.20. That's more than 2.5 times the legal limit of 0.08. What say you about this?
There's so
another controversy within the basketball program.
Of course, and here we are again, which is why it needs to be discussed, but there's so many moving parts to this. Did the officer show him a little bit of mercy? Was the officer a fan at the time? Did the university step in? There's so much that could go into this, but who's really at fault? Either way, this is more bad publicity for the university. They need to step in for Ira if the justice system won't, because who's accountable? Who's going to pay for this? Because this kid's been a troublemaker for quite some time now.
It's amazing. Over the last couple of years, you had Elliot Pitts suspended and kicked off the team for sexual assault allegations, Alonzo Trier PEDs, and now this kid, Lee. I just spoke to an expert attorney on DUI. If convicted, this kid faces anywhere from 1 to 14 days in jail, up to a $3,200 fine, could pay attorney fees of up to $15,000, and of course we'll have to go to substance abuse classes and have an ignition interlock installed on his vehicle. With all that, okay, to me it just speaks of the fact that the U of A police cited and released him. The optics look bad. Does not look good that he was not at least booked into jail. It does not look good that the university is just, they released a statement, but didn't come out and really put Sean Miller in the forefront to talk about it, to say, let's help this kid. If anything at all, that's the very least the university could do.
Of course, and even if the PD was nervous to do this, if they were nervous to make any sort of allocations to this, they need to be held accountable for this, because this is just more bad publicity, like we were saying before.
Again, it just goes to the optics. At least someone, please come out and say, he's got a problem, we need to help him. That simple. It really is that simple. That way, it allows the university to be seen in a better light than its past in the history and the way they've handled things in the past.
A new era.
Yep.
As we say before. Is there bad blood brewing between Arizona quarterback Khalil Tate and Houston's defensive tackle Ed Oliver, the projected #1 pick in the 2019 NFL Draft? Oliver, who appears to be bitter about Tate's success and making it on the preseason Sports Illustrated cover, called out Tate, saying he does not want to be asked about going pro because he beat Arizona in Week 2 of the regular season. Instead, he said he wants to be asked about it because, quote, I gave Khalil Tate a nightmare.
Oh, you better believe there's bad blood between Ed Oliver in Khalil Tate. I just think Ed Oliver does not like Khalil Tate because he is getting all the pub and stealing some of that thunder away from him because he is projected to be the #1 NFL pick next year. But he can walk the talk. Look at what he did against Arizona's O-line last year. It was nasty. I mean, he was all over the field. He single-handedly stopped Arizona's run game and destroyed Arizona. Look at what he did last year. 73 tackles, 16.5 for losses. His freshman year, 65 tackles, 22 for loss. That's an incredible stud right there. But here's what I'll say about Khalil. Zip it. Stay quiet. Let your talk on the field and your play do all the talking.
Of course.
And then talk some smack after you beat Houston.
After you win. On my end, you ask any football coach in the country and they will tell you that the D-line, they're the biggest divas on the entire roster. You've got to love those kids up if you want them to produce for you. And here we go again. This is just a good representation of it. Oliver's a fantastic player. He's in the top 5 of 2019 projections, and he's sad because he's not getting the correct publicity for it. I'm also interested in seeing how Tate's going to respond to this. We gave him a lot of trash. We gave him a lot of smack talk in the previous shows about how to handle the media. How is he going to handle player-to-player confrontations now that he's got a target on his back?
And don't forget, Kevin Sumlin coached at Houston in 2008 to 2011,
That's
so
a
kind of a
barn burner
homecoming
already.
for him already, right? All right. With TUSD battling a budget crisis, failing schools, declining enrollment, just to name a few, why is the governing board going bucking wild over using the term rodeo days? Animal rights activists, citing the controversy of animal cruelty at rodeos, have convinced TUSD's governing board that using rodeo days in its school calendar also glorifies abusive practices towards animals.
I don't foresee this getting passed. It's as obtuse as, like the petition for LeBron James to replace Betsy DeVos. But if this group is for animal advocacy, their jurisdiction sure doesn't stop at the Tucson rodeo. If anything, it could point out some few inaccuracies. But at the end of the day, I don't foresee this being a problem.
Does bull riding hurt the bull? I would say so if you tied a rope around the animal's testicle or any man's testicle. Of course that's going to hurt and piss you off. Does roping calves hurt the calf when you snap its neck back? I'm sure it does. But rodeo is a culture, and it's been around forever, and it exists in just about every culture. But I will say this, you know what I find cruel? Is that the TUSD board is finding time to talk about renaming rodeo days when they have a budget deficit. They have $16 million to fill from the Red for Ed and Governor Ducey's education funding. And dilapidated schools, they're losing enrollment, and they're talking about rodeo days.
Bigger fish to fry, maybe.
Come on, man. That's why I say get rid of them all. Let's start all over. All right.
Clean house.
It's time now for Rapid Fire. I fire off a topic with a local sports connection. Arty fires back a rapid response. And keep in mind, Arty has no idea when I'm going to punch at him. All right? You ready? You ready? Let's go. All right. Arizona head football coach Kevin Sumlin is coaching the tight ends this season. Could that be a sign sophomore Bryce Wolma, who caught 28 balls in 2017, have a breakout year as a top target this season?
He's going to get the exact treatment that any other coach would give him, but I think Bryce Wolma's, he's a hot shot on the field. He's going to get targeted a lot by Khalil Tate, especially on the underneath patterns. I see a big season for him too.
All right. Are you shocked ex-Wildcat Rob Gronkowski, who hasn't spent a dime of his NFL salary money, finally splurged on himself buying a diamond necklace with his endorsement money?
I tell you what, the salesman definitely got him. The jeweler definitely got him, and he's going to see a pretty hefty commission for that. But the guy likes to spend money. He likes to have a good
endorsement
time.
Money.
The guy likes to spend his endorsement money, so can we blame him?
He saved all 8 years of his NFL salary money? That's pretty incredible. When you think of Rob the partier,
Get
that's
him
incredible.
A money market account
all
or
right.
something.
Can Cheese It, the new title sponsor for the Cactus Bowl played in Phoenix, serve as the Bulls' longtime savior?
I don't think so. If they're going for an antics approach, if they're going for a gimmick approach to the bowl game, the Cheez-It bowl game is a little vanilla. I think they can do better than that. But it's a good bowl game. I definitely watched it, so I'm excited to see what's next.
Why not Cheez-It as a sponsor? Nacho cheese?
Nacho cheese.
Come on, man, that was cheese.
All
right, what's more impressive, ex-Wildcat DeAndre Ayton gifting his mom a new house in the same hood as Suns teammate Devin Booker, or gifting 300 tickets for fans to attend the Phoenix Mercury's playoff game?
They're both good. Why are we going to put them next to each other? They're both beneficial. But let's take it as it is.
Come on, give your mama a new house.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That is incredible.
Mercury tickets are also good as well.
All right. Is this an example of another terrible decision? Ex-Wildcat center Chance Comanche left school for the NBA after his sophomore year. Now, 2 years later, he's playing professionally in Serbia.
It's the best of a bad situation, just like Tucson Ristic. He made what he could out of it, so we have to give him that.
All right. That does it for rapid fire.
Let's stop leaving early.
That does it for rapid fire. Good job. Now on to some politics.
As the university brushed racism and pay discrimination under the carpet for way too long, now that it's starting to fuel a movement of lawsuits. U of A Presents director Candace Feldman, who is African American, recently quit her job citing a culture of racism, discrimination, and unfair compensation. Feldman claims Human Resources shared her complaints with the subjects, making her feel vulnerable and unsafe.
Consider this for a second. When she began to diversify productions at U of A Presents, she was told blacks don't buy tickets. When she came on board, her salary, starting salary, was $50,000, $35,000 less than the previous director. In her first year at U of A Presents, she took the annual revenue from $706,000 to $922,000. When she went in to ask for a raise, they denied her a raise. This just mirrors exactly the culture that former President Ann Weaver left at the University of Arizona, and even athletic director Greg Byrne within the U of A athletic program. Inequality for women. In January of this year, U of A women's study professor Patricia McCorkadale also filed a $2 million lawsuit against the University of Arizona. Why? For pay disparity between her and her male colleagues with the same qualifications.
My take on this entire thing, racism disputes aside, anytime an employee goes to Human Resources and says, the workplace makes me feel vulnerable and unsafe, and if that gets dismissed, there's a problem there. If there's no effort to resolve any claims like that, any claims that concrete, there's a problem there. So even if there was direct racism and direct pay discrimination, there should have been an effort at least to resolve her unsafe feeling at the workplace.
Correct. And now we're seeing, though, a pattern of culture by this latest lawsuit. All right, let's jump right into Do We Care? As you know, we love to tackle community issues and not just sports and ask ourselves, do we care? Well, Governor Doug Ducey claims he was not aware that conservative group Turning Point USA was recently called out for repeated claims of racism and anti-Semitism when he attended the opening of its Arizona facility earlier this month. When asked by reporters about it, Ducey claims he thought the student-founded group served as advocates for limited government, capitalism, and freedom. Do we care?
Yes, if your job title is Governor Doug Ducey, State of Arizona, you have to do your homework before doing any sort of communication with groups in general, with any sort of communities, organizations in general. You have to do your homework. You have to be on top of everything. Why would you even think about associating yourself with this before your homework is done?
His speech for Turning Point USA comes about 3 months after he posed in a photo with another group that is considered a racist group known as Patriot Movement Arizona. This is the same group that has been showing up to immigrants' rights rallies armed to the teeth with semi-automatic guns, screaming at people, screaming racist slurs, and everything else under the sun. When Ducey posed in that photo, those members were throwing up the WP sign, which stands for white power. You're going to tell me, not only a direct flag, but you're going to tell me that as a governor, you're not doing your homework to find out where you're speaking at and who you're speaking at and who your audience is? I don't buy it. I think it's all BS.
I do too. No one to blame. Be held accountable. Up next, during a candidate forum, Republican Steve Ganor, who is running to be Arizona's next Secretary of State, said all election ballots should be printed in English only. His comment drew pushback from both sides of the aisle. But Steve, do we care?
We do care because this is history repeating itself. In the 80s, remember, it was no English no English only law, which meant the government stopped sending out any information in Spanish, and you couldn't even conduct or speak Spanish in government buildings. So we're seeing a repeat in history, which in my opinion is just absolutely pathetic that in today's day and age that we're seeing a politician running for Secretary of State kind of saying the same damn thing. And we have to be reminded that the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965 requires that ballots are in other languages, at least to the region that is spoken the most.
And at the very least, he knew what he was doing. He knew who he was targeting. He knew that there was foreseeable repercussions from this. So I say, what's to be done about this? Because he feels untouchable.
All right, really quick. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, is suing Arizona Secretary of State Michelle Reagan on behalf of multiple voter rights organizations for failure to update 500,000 voter registration addresses to what is listed on their driver's licenses. Reagan says her office will make those changes next year. Quickly.
An absolute abuse of power. This needs to be a priority. And if it isn't, what is the priority?
You said it best. I have nothing to add. All right. Well, you've heard the phrase, oh, no, you didn't. Well, here at the 520, we're not afraid to tell it like it is with, oh, yes, we did. Dear President Trump and all other so-called patriots who call journalists the enemy of the people. Let me tell you a little bit something about myself. I'm a sixth-generation American. I love my country. I'm also an award-winning journalist. I've reported on immigration issues along the U.S. border and in Mexico. I've covered local and state elections and have interviewed politicians running for president. Most of all, I've told stories about everyday folks. I believe in advocacy journalism that gives voice to common people while holding people in powerful positions accountable. I'm a truth seeker and do so to the best of my ability. I know a lot of colleagues who share the same passion as I do for reporting the facts and making a difference in our community. I cherish our free press. Whether you agree with the messenger or not, right or wrong, I despise being called an enemy of the people. I do not sell or promote fear. You do. I do not promote hate. You do. I do not lie. You do. I do not bully people. You do. I do not divide people based on the color of their skin. You do. I am not a misogynist. You are. And I am not a threat to American civil liberties and freedom of speech. You are. It is you, a self-proclaimed authoritarian, who is threatening free speech and freedom to assemble and peacefully protest. In other words, it is you who is threatening to diminish the sacrifice our brave men and women who have served and have died protecting our freedoms. And yet, you call me the enemy of the people? And to the person who called me and spewed those same hate words, screw you.
What else needs to be said about that, Steve? I'm glad it was said by you, though. Thank you. And I, of course, have another bone to pick in the sports section. And we touched on this a bit last show. This new helmet-to-helmet rule in the NFL. Richard Sherman has sounded off. Mike Zimmer tells us to be ready for a slower game. And all the OGs keep bringing up how Jim Brown never ran out of bounds. Guys, everyone relax. Helmet-to-helmet. We've spent so much time talking about what it is, not about what it isn't. Referees and players have to make adjustments just like they did to their completed catches and their bump and run coverage. Just like the early days of pass interference, There was such a gray area, sometimes it just went down to personal opinion of the referee. Now the game has evolved and even the occasional fan can spot pass interference. The NFL has to defend this rule if they want it to last. The public demanded the NFL to take responsibility for concussions, and now the public is still furious. But I promise you, in 5 years, this rule will be the cornerstone of sportsmanship, technique, and efficiency of the game, but the fans have to learn to be patient, just like the players and referees.
Great. I just disagree with you. I think it's going to soften the game, and it's going to turn into the National Flag Football League.
And I tell you what, I mean, right on the line of scrimmage in the 70s with the steel curtain, those guys were straight up getting in flexing contests with the wide receivers.
Coming from the guy who's wearing the Penn State sweater.
Hey, those guys play a good defense.
As a USC fan. Come on, man.
I like it.
Before we go, take a look at the clip of the week. This Bud's for you, but only when the Cleveland Browns win. Bud Light is installing Victory fridges that will be full of beer in 10 Cleveland bars. It's now been more than 600 days and counting and 17 straight losses since the Browns last won a game. Those fridges will unlock when the Browns win.
Crack a cold one for the boys.
Yeah, I wish I could crack
guys.
a cold one. That does it for this episode of the 520. Our goal is to tell it like it is because it's all about giving voice to opinions even if you don't agree.
Be sure to follow the 520 on Facebook and on Twitter at the 520 Tucson.
And if you have a topic you want us to cover, send us an email at the520@KVOA.com. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Arty IV. Join us next week on the 520.
Go Wildcats, baby.